Ladies and gentlemen, we're now ready for candidates for the office of State Representative, 55th Representative District. All candidates were invited, and Kim King and Kathy Carter are here. The first question will go to Kim King, and you will have up to 2 minutes for your answer. And that first question is, do you feel that the state should pay more taxes to build government buildings with taxpayers' money than an equivalent building would cost in the private sector due to the prevailing wage laws? And do you support or oppose Kentucky's prevailing wage law? Please explain your answer.
Thank you, Dr. Motzer. I am already on record as having voted against prevailing wage, voting for repealing prevailing wage. That is proven to save our school boards and our local governments about 30% on any kind of project cost. And again, that is hard-earned taxpayer dollars. So I'm already on record for that. As far as investing a lot of money in a public building, and what we are seeing in our local communities is the maintenance to keep those buildings up is most of the time more than the local governments can do. I've heard about a lot of judicial centers across the Commonwealth where they have to block off several of the hallways, several of the rooms, because they can't even afford to heat and light those rooms. So I am definitely for repealing prevailing wage, and I'm already on record for having done so. I appreciate that question and look forward to the rest of the comments and the discussion we have this evening. Thank you, Dr. Motzer.
Thank you, Kim King. Kathy Carter, your response, please.
Could you repeat the first part of that question, please?
I was happy to. Do you feel that the state should pay more taxes to build a government building with taxpayers' money than an equivalent building would cost in the private sector due to the prevailing wage laws?
I would first like to say that the prevailing wage law does need to be in place. I think that is a necessity because there's been such an attack on Kentucky's working families. I would think that we would have to assess that fiscal responsibility, all of the maintenance and what types of payments and costs would go into that. So I guess my answer would be fiscal responsibility for what we already have, as far as the buildings that we already have. But I'm definitely in favor of Kentucky's prevailing wage law.
All right, thank you, Kathy Carter. The second question goes to you initially. What are the three most important issues facing our state, and how do you think they should be addressed?
First one definitely is the opioid epidemic, dealing with that myself personally, with a son he's a veteran, that has devastated a lot of families. I think that Matt Bevin's a war on public education. And my third concern would be the war Matt Bevin is perpetuating on Kentucky's working families. There are, and I brought a copy of this. This is called the Economic Agenda for a Thriving Commonwealth, and it's written by the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy. It addresses every single issue for drug addiction, and it's all focused. We can't have a conversation about anything unless we talk about economics, and we have to get the economic issues under control, and for heaven's sakes, we've got to take care of the deficit so my dad will stop talking about it.
Thank you, Kathy Carter. Kim King, your response, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that question. I heard it mentioned at last night's forum, and so I've been kind of pondering that overnight, and actually I did come up with three, but they all have the same root cause, and that is drug abuse. And let me start out by saying that no one in any form of government can legislate sobriety, we can't legislate honesty, we can't legislate hard work ethic, we can't legislate good decisions. So let's just get that right out there. But how are we going to affect the top three, and what do I think those are? The top one, I think, is the overwhelming number of children that are being raised in homes that aren't their parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, foster parents raising children. That is a desperate need here in our county. The homeless population, we don't really realize it's kind of the silent problem. I think we're becoming more and more aware. I appreciate Cassie Barker's work on that at the Grace, Hope and Mercy homeless home that we're trying to get put into place, and jail overcrowding. That is taking folks out of the workforce so they're not paying taxes and being productive members of our community, but they are taking our expenses and taking your hard-earned taxpayers and keeping up while they are in jail. But drug abuse is the root cause of each of those problems. And as we are speaking here tonight, Campbellsville University is sponsoring a dinner seminar to help counsel the loved ones of folks addicted to alcohol and drugs. And I certainly applaud their efforts to step up, and they are doing that at the Herod while we are speaking right now. I just was notified earlier this week that Senator McConnell has appropriated $31.47 million just to Kentucky alone for the state opioid response grant. So I know that's going to be great as well. Thank you, Dr. Monson.
Thank you, Kim King. And the third question goes to you initially. What do you see as being the most important part of being a state representative? In other words, why should people vote for you?
Thank you, Dr. Motzer. Well, the very most important thing about any of your legislators is that they are being committed to making decisions based on data and not on drama. Based on data and not on drama, because we see it every day. We are presented with official information from the Legislative Research Commission, and that is who I look to for information. Let me say drama and fake news and propaganda and not so secret online media groups are just a recipe for disaster, not for good public policy. So the main responsibility I have is to make decisions based on data, not on drama. I need to have the courage to vote yes on good bills and no on bad bills. I need to be able to be responsive. I'm on the radio every weekday morning at 8:50 when we are not sequestered from not being able to do that as much as possible. I report on the radio and on social media to keep you all informed. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim King. Kathy Carter, your response.
Question, please.
Certainly. What do you see as being the most important part of being a state representative? In other words, why should people vote for you?
I think one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about campaigning, because I'm not a politician, is meeting the people. As a former school counselor, I think it's very important to make relationships and connections where you feel that you can talk to me. It really reminds me a lot of my counseling responsibilities. That's probably the most important, I think, is forming relationships where you feel that you can trust me and ask me what you need, and I try to help, and if I can, I will do what I possibly can do. And also to be honest with what I possibly can't do. But I just think it's important that you know that I'm hearing and listening to you and your concerns.
Thank you, Kathy Carter. The fourth question goes to you initially. What is your plan to protect Kentucky's working families, teachers, both certified and classified staff, state workers, public service employees, and our veterans and their families? And please explain your reasoning to support your answer.
Well, as far as public education, I'm a 30-year veteran. I just retired in March, and my first plan would be to repeal charter school legislation. And as far as Kentucky working families, we need to repeal right to work. We need to reinstate Kentucky's prevailing wage law, and we also need to reinstate workers' compensation. That was a program that I'm not understanding why there was no fiscal responsibility or issue with those changes being made to workers' comp. But there's a lot of anti-labor bills that that I just mentioned, and not only those, but there'll be others that are going to be filed in the upcoming session that we need to be very aware of that hurt working families. And I don't think, if the working families are hurt, it's going to hurt children in school as well.
Thank you, Kathy Carter. Should I repeat this again?
No, fine.
What is your plan to protect Kentucky's working families, teachers, both certified and classified staff, state workers, public service employees, and our veterans and their families? And please explain your reasoning to support your answer.
Thank you, Dr. Motzer. Well, all of those groups that you just mentioned are best served if you send Kim King back to Frankfort to be your voice in the Kentucky General Assembly. I would continue on the same course that I've been on. We have current record unemployment numbers here in Kentucky. We have 2,071,098 people employed in Kentucky right now. Again, just to combat fake news and propaganda, I voted against Senate Bill 151, regardless of what's being told in not so secret social media groups. I made the final decision, a very educated decision, when we made our final vote on Senate Bill 151. In less than 2 minutes and on my phone, I pulled up Senate Bill 151, put in viable contract in the find a phrase, and 8 times that came up that was going to be eliminated in Senate Bill 151. So in less than 2 minutes, I came up with my no answer. So with fake news and propaganda and not so secret social media sites tell you I made a decision based on being given a pass by leadership, that is just fake news and propaganda. I made an educated decision on Senate Bill 151 based on what I just said. I will continue on my current path. We have folks going into the workforce that have not been in quite a long time. In the last month, in September of 2018, Kentucky's wage growth was in the top 4. We had 5.5% wage growth here in Kentucky. And it's because of the decisions I've been making for the last 8 years on your behalf. So I will go back to Frankfort if you all give me that opportunity, and I will continue on my current path to support those groups and all of Kentucky's families. Thank you, Dr. Motzer.
Thank you, Kim King. And again, the 5th and final question comes to you first.
Okay.
Do you, and we've talked about this, so we'll figure out how you want to answer.
Okay.
Do you support or oppose overturning charter school legislation HB 520? Please explain your reasoning to support your answer.
Oh, absolutely. I stand beside my vote for charter schools and what we put through in 2017. 16 of the 17 worst performing schools are in Fayette County and in Jefferson County. Those low performing students deserve the opportunity to have a different approach and see if there's another way that we can reach them. Now, do I think that's going to happen in Jessamine, Bergen, Mercer, or Washington County school districts? Absolutely not. There's no reason to. We have alternative classrooms right here in Mercer. It's Mercer Central, and they are pretty much fulfilling the role of what a charter school might do. In our rural community, it makes no sense to have transportation. There's no transportation possibility there. And it would be the school board's blessing that would put that into place. So I absolutely, positively stand behind my vote on charter schools for those low-performing students in Jefferson County and Fayette County, and I would make that vote again tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Motzer.
Thank you. And Kathy Carter, your response, please.
I absolutely would overturn legislation for charter schools. It's my understanding that an individual or an entity can approach your local school district or your school board, and once that school board says yes or no, if the answer is no, with Governor Bevin's charter school friendly Kentucky State School Board, they could overturn your local decision, and that could happen at any time. So I absolutely do not and would never support charter school legislation. It takes tax dollars from our public schools, and we need to work together, and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's problems, but there are things that we can do, and we just need to stop cutting education. Those cuts don't heal.
Thank you, Kathy Carter. All questions have now been asked, as well as an opportunity for all candidates present to give answers. Kim King, you will now have up to 2 minutes for your closing statement. And please remember, I will give both you an opportunity to thank the candidates for their attendance when both have finished.
Thank you, sponsors, Dr. Motzer, and especially our audience for making tonight's candidate forum possible. Citizens in Kentucky's 55th House District have a very distinct choice this fall. The decision to re-elect Kim King as your state representative is as simple as 1, 2, 3. Number 1, as your state representative, I fought all the way to the Kentucky Supreme Court to keep Mercer County in one legislative district, and I won a unanimous decision that still protects our legislative integrity in the Kentucky General Assembly. 2, as your state representative, my 2 signature bills mandate legislative accountability and eliminate legislative special session pay for budget decisions. 3, as your state representative, I'm the only candidate endorsed by the 3 organizations most respected in the 55th House District: the Kentucky Right to Life, the National Rifle Association, and the National Federation of Independent Business. I have an 8-year record of voting yes on good bills and no on bad bills, based on data and not on drama. You know my Christian values, work ethic, and dedication to transparency, fiscal responsibility, and common sense. My House Bill 33 requiring school notification became law without opposition and equips our school counselors to keep our children safe. Local officials report that my House Bill 38, which prohibits registered sex offenders from being on public playgrounds, is indeed working. My House Bill 74, the Pawnbroker Registry Bill, is helping law enforcement officials statewide return stolen articles to their rightful owners. It's an honor to serve you, your family, and your business in the Kentucky General Assembly. Please support my efforts to make our great Commonwealth an even better place to raise our children and grandchildren. I humbly ask you to vote Kim King for State Representative on November 6th. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Kim King. Kathy Carter, please give your closing statement.
I stood with many of you as we protested Governor Matt Bevin's war on public education, attended both court cases regarding the sewer pension bill, and voiced our disapproval to our opponent who voted for charter schools. My 3 siblings, our children, and I are proud graduates of Harrodsburg Independent Public Schools. 2 are public school teachers, and 1 is the director of the Mercer County Fair Family Resource Center. Our mother was a classified employee for Harrodsburg Independent Schools, and my dad is a retired state worker. I was a special needs teacher at Boyle County Middle School for 10 years. Because I couldn't have children, our family adopted a student, as did 4 other teacher families. I served as the counselor for Harrodsburg Middle School, was the last to serve as the guidance counselor for Harrodsburg High School, and served as a high school counselor at Mercer County Senior High School before being recruited to Fayette County Public Schools, from where I retired with 30 years of service. I'm not a politician. I'm a pro-life, retired educator who will work for the people of District 55 despite political affiliation. We must embrace new approaches such as the 5 strategies outlined in an economic agenda for a thriving Commonwealth by Jason Bailey. We can no longer sacrifice our quality of life through lower wages and corporate tax breaks that undermine our ability to invest in education, infrastructure, and other vital public services. I pledge to work with bipartisan spirit to repeal right to work and charter school legislation, reinstate Kentucky's prevailing wage law, restore workers' comp, address the opioid crisis, keep our schools safe, work to provide affordable health care, and protect working families and pensions, teachers, both certified and classified, state workers, farmers, public service employees, our veterans, and our families. My name is Kathy Carter, and I respectfully ask for your vote on November 6th.
Thank you, Kathy Carter. Please thank the